So we move on straight to our second speaker of the day, which is Mike Ramsey, and this talk is going to take us into the world of the Swift. Now, Mike is another person who has an absolutely impeccable record on the internet. I can find some really scurrilous Mike Ramseys, but it's not ours, as is very saintly. So my mind had to go off in another direction. I hope it's educational for me, because I thought it was absolutely fascinating. Because what I'm going to start with here is my most memorable experiences of Swifts was in Rottingdean, of all places. And you know this is a true story because I was in a traffic jam at the time. And I looked up and I saw a four-winged bird flying over. And for what felt like quite a long moment, I thought I had actually seen a four-winged bird. You probably have guessed what it is. This is a photo of Save Our Swifts. And it's this fact that Swifts mate on the wing. And I saw this going over, and it was like one of the most incredible moments. And I thought, where my mind went was into the other fabulous beasts of Sussex. So I thought, for those of you who are into other beasts of Sussex, I'd start with this place. Is there anybody in from Leominster, near Arundel? There is. Do you know where this place is? Behind the church. It's the Knucker Hole. Knucker with a K. If you'd lived in Sussex 300 years ago, you would have been very scared of Knuckers, because they lived in places like this. And this is still known as the Knucker Hole. And Knuckers were Sussex dragons with a kind of worm-like form to them. They terrorised the nuns of Leominster. This is the only picture I could find of a Knucker. See, it's so educational, isn't it? Which made me think of the St Leonard's dragon. St Leonard being the saint who killed the last dragon in the UK. This is the one that lived in St Leonard's Forest. I don't know if anybody's seen it. We know it was lived there because these people have gone on record as having seen it. John Steele, Christopher Holder, and a widow woman who dwelled near Faygate. They all saw the St Leonard's dragon. And then this is the other fabulous beast of Sussex, which is a toad that was found inside a flint nodule and can still be seen in Brighton Museum today. Anybody know who the gentleman is on the right? That's Charles Dawson, who was the man who discovered Piltdown Man on the Downs. He discovered this toad inside a rock. And the reason why I thought this was a good way to then move into Mike's talk was Charles Dawson lived in Lewes. Oh, it's magnificent, isn't it, how it all comes round. To talk about the Swifts of Lewes and beyond, Mike.
Lewes Swift Supporters, and that's what we've been trying to do, and I think it's a generally applicable model. So what I'm going to talk about, is there a cursor on here? Which is the cursor? No. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Swifts, their appeal, their behaviour, and their current situation, as you might guess, in decline nationally and locally. What the possible causes of that decline might be, and what some of the actions we might be able to do to help, both nationally and particularly locally, the focus of this talk. So then I'm going to talk about Lewes Swift Supporters, what it is, when it was formed, our objectives, a bit about our organisation, and our survey results for this year, and broader activities bringing in the local community. A little bit about where swifts are building their nests. They've got some interesting habits, our future plans. And then I'm going to broaden out to look at the local swift groups around Sussex as a whole, and some conclusions. So why are swifts so appealing? Well, they're an iconic species, obviously. They're actually on our Sussex shield. There are these heraldic devices that are based on, there's an argument whether it's swifts or house martins, but you can see it's obviously the bird that martlet for symbolises Sussex. We even have it on the town map in Lewes. You can see little symbols here for the swifts. It's a sort of the bird that has resonated in the local community. And it's a quintessential sight and sound of summer. I'm sure you've all heard them. This is a bit of video that was taken in Lewes by one of our supporters. I'll try that again. You just see them at the end, but you can hear them. And our Lewes Swift Supporters, our motto is keep the sky screaming. It's interesting, whenever film directors are trying to evoke the sound of summer, they often just put a little bit of swift sound on the top because it takes us to that midsummer excitement. So swift behaviour, as you all probably know, they're one of the last migrants to arrive in early May and one of the first to leave, usually by late July. And as you saw in that nice photo that Adrian showed us, they mate on the wing, they sleep on the wing, they feed on the wing. For the first few years, they don't land after they've fledged. They only really land to raise their young, and in the UK they only have one group, so hence their short stay. And interestingly, they choose to nest with us. So they like nice nooks and crannies. You can see in our buildings, here are some photos around Lewes. The little marks are where we detected nesting. You can see one little house there, about 8 nests. That's one reason why they really need help from people, because they've chosen to live with us. So it's been estimated that Lewes has approximately 10% of the total swift population of Sussex. And part of that is because we have so many old buildings with nooks and crannies suitable for nesting. So where are the swifts in Sussex as a whole? The only map I can find is this one from the SOS Atlas of 2014, showing where they were found between 2008 and 11. And you can see here confirmed breeding in quite a lot of the towns across Sussex at that time. But what we don't really know is what the situation is now. But we have some indications. In terms of a map, we don't know. But this is the national picture for swifts. This is the breeding bird survey results. And you can see this steady decline. The period I'm going to be looking at particularly is 2000 to 2022. And you can see here there's a 59% decline over that period, 65% over the whole period. So a serious decline. And hence, swifts were put on the red list back in 2021. But what about Sussex? I mean, in Sussex, the picture appears even worse. We've got a 74% decline over this same period. This model here is obviously affected by this one very high outlier here. But whatever the situation is, it's as bad as the national, if not worse, in terms of its decline. are the possible causes of this decline? Lots of nesting sites is evident in our towns, that lots of gaps under eaves, people inadvertently during building work often seal up and make it appear neater. One of our churches had the roof taken off and they put a new roof on and they beautifully sealed it all up and took the homes away from a large number of Swifts. And the other issue, of course, is reduced food supply. I think we've all heard about the insects dropping population around by about 50% since 1970. There are several papers supporting this. And of course, with insectivores, this effectively affects swifts and other insectivores. And interestingly, more frequent extreme weather. There was a paper last year by people from RSPB and BTO showing how extreme local weather is also involved, and they are saying it's probably even more important than aphid abundance in causing problems. So it's very hard to untangle which are the particular causes. They're probably all three of them. So actions that might help. At the national level, there was a parliamentary debate back in July about making it a requirement for bird accommodation in new buildings. And this really made a big impact, and it was popularised by this activist here, Hannah Vaughan-Taylor, and she actually got an article on the front page of The Guardian. So she was really trying to get the message home to the broader public that this is a big issue. So that's on the nest location issue. But on the food supply issue, obviously we need to improve regulation of use of pesticides. That is one of the big issues for the decline in the insect population, and this is obviously an international issue as well as a national issue. And the extreme weather, well, we need to focus our efforts on trying to reduce the effects of climate change. One way, you never know, even reverse it. But that's national level. What can we do locally? And that's obviously what I'm focused on here. And there is a role for local people to get involved to help their local swift population by increasing public awareness and even generate political support. In Lewes now we've got green councillors who are really getting quite signed up to this idea, and there seems to be political support, which is part of the battle, I think. If you're interested in that debate in Parliament, by the way, it's all reported in Hansard, and some interesting comments from a number of the MPs. So we set up Lewes Swift Supporters. It was originally set up in 2015, and we had good support from SOS, crucially, and Sussex Wildlife Trust. And SOS, of course, has its own Swift champion. Dave Boddington currently was in the audience, and Audrey Wend was our previous Swift champion, who was very supportive when LSS started up. We were particularly inspired by, we had a talk, invited talk by this chap, Edward Mayer, and he has set up, he's a national Swift champion, and he's set up this site, Swift Conservation, which is a really useful information source for people interested in swifts right around the country. And he's inspirational chap. We had a few little teething problems in 2015, but we reformed in 2019, and we've currently got a committee of 6 members, and we've got a growing number of supporters, and we're close on 300. We've got followers on Facebook and about 1,000 on Twitter. So we are building local support. So what are our objectives? These were set up when we get started. to increase the number of swifts nesting in Lewes and the surrounding area through providing and encouraging more swift nesting, whether that be in the original under the eaves locations, or in boxes, or in bricks. I'll come to those later. But wider than that, to increase people's awareness and knowledge of swifts through education and engagement, getting out into schools, talking to the local people. And finally, to create opportunities for the local people to get involved. So there's a general feeling around the town that we're seeing swifts, when we report them, how can we help them? So if we're trying to increase the numbers of swifts, our first task was obviously to try and find out how many swifts were actually nesting in the town. So we could establish a baseline, so we could see whether we're making any progress towards our objectives. So we initiated a systematic survey in 2019, and we've repeated it every year, but with some modifications every year since. So I thought I'd show you the results of our survey this year. This is the design we've used. This is the town of Lewes, the A27 down the bottom, and you can see we've divided the town into these 6 areas, and it's where we know there are swifts nesting from previous work, and we're trying to keep this pattern the same from year to year to improve comparability between years. And in the systematic survey, we survey each of these 6 areas twice a month, on the months that the swifts are here, May, June and July, at least twice. Some of the surveyors do go more often, but we require at least twice. And they usually go out 7:30, 8 o'clock and count through till dusk. And they report low-flying swifts that are sort of house level, just a little bit above, but not the high-flying ones where they're feeding. We want those swifts that are related to the local breeding population. And they also try to identify these nestable entrances and exits. We call them, I'm going to loosely call them nests, but in fact we don't know if the breeding has been successful or not. But that's a point I'll come back to in a minute. But we also have casual sightings as well as a systematic. So across the whole of Lewes, we encourage the residents, particularly the supporters, to report their sightings via things like Facebook, Twitter, email. We have on our website, we have a thing called Swift Watch. So we get lots of the local people involved, and as they're walking around, if they hear the swift screaming along, they just send a message. And we collate all this. We have a recorder, this chap, Kevin Murphy, and we itemise it all and report it all to bird track, the VTO database. So these are the results for this last year's survey results. And this is a map of Lewes, courtesy of Google, modified by our recorder. And you can see these red labels here. These are where we found 83 active nests at 38 locations. And the full details of this are given in our annual report, came out in December. So the question that immediately comes to mind is this increasing, is it decreasing? But if we look back on the comparable totals that we've had across the last 5 years, they're not really comparable. The previous results were 34, 64, 76, 79 total nests. But these results aren't really comparable because we've changed the areas, we've changed the methodologies somewhat. So we need another way to try and decide if the numbers are really going up. We think this isn't So one of the ways swifts like to nest is colonially. And these colonies, you can see here on one of our local churches, this is St. Anne's. Here are the little places that we see the swifts disappear and they nest upon the tops of these walls. So we came across a report for the year 2000 in the local library, published by this chap, Mike Help. And he, for example, reported that in St. Anne's Church in the year 2000, there were 30 nests, 30 swifts nests. And this is the one where they replaced the roof and sealed it all up out of ignorance, really, what they were doing. It isn't all bad news. There was Helps also reported this area is a non-conformist chapel that's now a flea market. He found 10 nests in 2000, and we can still see 10 nests. Here, there's a building called the Maltings. Mike Helps had 4 nests. This last year, we had 11. So there are places where the number of nests are increasing. So this was his, it was handwritten, this book, parts of the book by Mike Helps. And this was his recording for the 2000 St. Anne's Church. So this is our only way of getting back to find out what the long-term trends of the birds are. And you can see here references various. There's the Maltings with the 4 pairs. So if we look at these 6 colonies that Helps reported, here they are, 6, and here are numbers to the year 2000. If we look at those colonies, then we maybe get some comparability across the years. And he found a total of 54 pairs. We've got 35 pairs, and that's actually equivalent to a decline of 35% over that period. But this is very subject to random variation. So in fact, it's better to average these results as the Maltings over the full 5-year period. So every year we'll be looking at these locations here. And these are the declines over all the different years. So if we take an average, we get maybe slightly more robust statistics, and that's about a minus 49% decline, which is not dissimilar to the UK picture of minus 59%. Might be better than the Sussex 74% decline, but it's probably not statistically significant. So that's the picture of the prime objective for the number of swifts. But what else do Lewes Swift Supporters do? Well, in this last year we've helped 16 new nest boxes. These are the green ones that have gone in across the town. And this brings up to a total of 144 the number of nest boxes that we've helped install. Some people pay for their own. We've funded about a third of them where it's close to a colony, existing colony we're trying to extend. And 10 of these were boxes came from an SOS grant early on in our existence. We got a good grant to get us going from SOS. So thank you for that. And we also do swift walks, guided walks around these key locations where there are plenty of swifts flying around in summer. We had 5 walks this year, mainly in National Swift Awareness Week in July, right across the country. People are going around looking at the swifts because they're at their maximum activity at that point, just before fledging. So we had 50 participants this year, and it really does help get people really excited. Once you've seen a swift colony in action with the young coming out and things, it's really motivating. As you can see on the communications front, Supporters, we've got a website for the last couple of years, social media presence. We produce a newsletter. There were 4 this year, where we tell people they've just arrived, that we've got a new colony here, these ones are fledged, and we have it on our website. So to get people actively involved in supporting the Swifts. And then we do an annual report at the end of the year with the details, and the people who want to go into the detail. We also communicate with what were called the custodians of the nest sites. These houses that people own or they rent, we try and build up a relationship. So they know that they've got Swifts. We had a nice example where there's one Lewes resident who said she found this bird in her son's bedroom. And what was it? It turned out it was a Swift, and it had come down through an open nest, open loft hatch. And her name was Sharon, and she was very excited that it was a Swift. And we eventually helped her find she had 3 nests up in her loft space, right under the eaves. She became very enthusiastic about Swifts. She became a supporter. She's helped us install nest cameras up in her loft. And she became LSS treasurer, which was very nice. Difficult position to fill. So, and these are some photos taken in her loft space. There are the eggs and the nestlings. So, so we encourage all the custodians of all these buildings where we found the Swifts to think about them and be aware of the Swifts when they're planning restorations, when they want to do extensions, removals, repairs, to find a time that's not going to disturb the Swifts. And we help to give them advice. One of them found a Swift on the ground, a fledgling, and we helped them get the Swift to Wildlife Rescue Service in Whitesmiths, and they managed to get food to the Swift, and then managed to launch it. It's an intervention, perhaps it's not quite scientific, but it is helping, especially when there appears to be a shortage of food in quite a few of these nest situations. So our other activity, we've been, with communication, we've been talking to the media. Our communications officer, Audrey Jarvis, secretary, she was interviewed on the Radio 4 Today programme last April, and gave a really good interview, talking about her experiences in the surveying and how exciting it was. I think that helped. And she had a good interview with the Financial Times journalist, Jonathan Guthrie, this year, and that resulted in an article in the FT. So I think this is helping to increase the external profile of Swift's case. We also have communication with other external bodies like the planning organisation, Lewes Town Council, South Downton National Park District Council, and we've helped them to look at planning applications as they come in to see if they should include Swift accommodation when they're granting planning permission. It should be conditional on the people, on some people, including Swift accommodation. And I'll show you in a second the leaflet, extracts from the leaflet that we helped to try to help the planners. And we also talk to property developers. There's a new development in Lewes, North Street, and they're planning 400 houses and flats down by the river, and we're helping them to locate where to put Swift bricks and other aftermarket types of things in those buildings, and that helps them actually get through the planning process. So they're keen to do it, so they can, and of course they get some green grounding rights as well. So the leaflet that we devised in collaboration with Lewes Town Council show you how it was applied to one potential development in a place called Spittal Road in Lewes. This was the planned development. The leaflet went through 4 questions for the planning committee to ask before they decided what to do. And the first question is it in the area where swift nesting is likely? So they can easily say this particular development, for example, is within the red area, so it counts for consideration. The next thing is, will there be places over 4.5 metres high where swift bricks or boxes could be put? And the answer here is yes, and this is where we suggested 2 swift bricks per building to go in, and this is what a swift brick looks like. They go in there, it's inside here, and you can see another inside here, and there's the swift on the nest inside, very rudimentary nest. North-facing, particularly with swift boxes rather than bricks, north-facing is the preferred orientation. South-facing, the boxes get too much direct sunlight and the chicks get too hot. So the idea is you don't put swift boxes on south-facing locations. Is the access unobstructed? Generally, you can see here that the access will be clear. Around here, some trees potentially in the way, but this is another criteria. This advice here, these 4 questions, were derived from advice from the Swift Conservation website. I'll show you on the next slide, and we worked obviously with Lewes Town Council to get the format right. And we also worked with the late Richard Cowser from SOS, who was absolutely pivotal in getting all this through, helping to work with local authorities, getting our message out to the wider community of regulators. And this is a graphic from Swift Conservation's website talking about the best places to locate swift accommodation. Here it talks about not on the south side where the sun is, got to be above 4.5 metres, not where there's obstructions, and people use this obviously to locate swift bricks. There's a swift going into some swift bricks or boxes. So this is a very good resource here, Swift Conservation, for information like that, but it's nice to tailor-make it for the local planners so they've got something to hand when they're considering planning applications. We also get involved in public events in the local community. We do talks to schools and go out and see the kids. There's been a couple we've done this year, and you can see the kids then go on to paint pictures and make badges, and it increases their awareness. They actually go out and look at the Swifts and start appreciating them, and we do talks to local organisations, Secret Naturalist Society, all increasing the awareness. We've got involved with the Climate Hub that's open in Lewes. We had a whole week of Swift activities, and you can see here kids in here producing little Swifts, and then they stick them up on the board. All things to try and get the next generation activated and supported. We did a blog for Sussex Wildlife Trust to celebrate Swift Awareness Week and get the message out. And we work with various partnership organisations that are trying to get funding into this area. But it's not just Swifts. This is the equivalent graph from BBS for swallows. And you can see here the decline isn't quite as bad over this period. 36% decline, that's still bad. And you can see the recent decline is very, very steep. So they're in trouble as well. House Martins, same equivalent graph. This time's even worse. They're down 72%, 20 to 22, and graph is not very reliable. The fitted model has got a big uncertainty. But part of this is due to the very low numbers being detected. So it's a sad irony that the model's not very good because there aren't reverse time. But I think there's no doubt about it. House margins are in severe trouble, even more than in Swifts. So, and systematic surveying has proved its worth before. This is an old SOS publication, the 2015 Learning Report. A chap called Martin Le Gray was working in the villages of Ditchley, Sussex and Kemah, counting the buildings with Swifts there in red over time from 1976 to 2015. You can see this steady decline and the actual number of nests in blue, actually even steeper decline. It's very sad diagram, and you can see here that it's gone down from a 97% decline here, and that was just up to 2015, and virtually going up towards extinction of habitats in those villages. So the good news is that systematic surveying does highlight the issue, but obviously what we're missing there, obviously the fault is action to try and reverse this, to talk to people who are often they knock down martins nests because they grow in the buildings, which the industry is doing. But part of it is just lack of education for people as to the broader issues. But this is the first step is finding out what's going on, and then the next step is to engage with the local population. Slides prepared by Audrey Jarvis, who's Secretary Surveyor as well as Communications Officer, and it just showed you a little bit about where the Swifts choose to nest in Lewes. Often you can't see the nest at all. If you're looking in the right place at the right time, you just see a Swift sit under here. Very hard to photograph. But the little nooks and crannies you can see under that board there. Under a fascia panel here, up under there. If you're looking at the right millisecond in the right direction, at the beginning of the season, this only happens once or twice an evening. So surveying is quite a challenge. This is a classic little soffit board. It's not snug there. There's a nice gap. And the Swifts are in there. So you don't want tidy houses. Untidy gardens are good, untidy houses, they're good too. And often they have to get over obstacles to get in there, which doesn't go up and over there to get into the roof space and to nest on the wall. This is St Anne's Church, and they go into these little gaps. And in this particular season of 2022, they actually were going in up till September. There'd been a slow season, a slow start, and so it stayed even through to September. And this is another bit where poor maintenance is really beneficial. This is a house in Station Street in Lewes, a paint shop, and the soffit fell down. And in 2022, we got 8 nests in there. It's a lovely place. They think it's wonderful. They're not so keen on Swift boxes, but they really like empty and open. They find this very attractive. And they were there again this year, this last year. So, so we're very keen to try and suggest we don't replace this soffit in a hurry. But it's obviously it's a tricky issue, trying to do renovation of buildings in a sensitive way. There were another place where there's an air brick here. The Swift went into the air brick. This is the design Swift box which we recommend, which is by a company called Peak Boxes, and they have this up and under entry. And the idea is that this is more like the action that the swifts do naturally under the eaves, and these are somewhat more popular than the boxes. They've got the side entrance, which you see more generally. But of course, as I said, house martins and swallows are also on the red list, also struggling. So we're now helping to install these artificial nest cups for house martins too. Even in places where there used to be house martin nests, but for whatever reasons they're not being built by the house martins, perhaps through lack of mud because of the warm, dry summers. So we have had some challenges with swift surveying, as you can see by the difficulty in finding comparability between years. This is business that you've got to locate the nest, and you can only do it by seeing the swifts going into the gap in the house. And there are very few entries and exits, especially early in the year. If you're not looking in exactly the right direction at the right time, you can miss it. So there's no visible signs usually. This one, there appears to be poo there, but I'm sure that's not a swift. We do get sparrows often go into these nests, and the swifts can evict them. You can have instances of that. But often there isn't a clue where the swift nests are. And the only way to spot this is to just stare at the way you think the nest is for hours on end until you see them. And if you close your eyes for a second, you turn your head. And this is quite difficult. It takes time, which I'll come to in a minute. And often this happens, the entries happen right at dusk, and some of these sites are quite a long way away. So it's quite hard to get the visual acuity to see exactly where they're going. So it's quite hard to find the nest. Interestingly, that flea market site, we hadn't found it until we came across that record by Mike Helps. And we looked at the front and we couldn't see it. It was only when we went round the back into where there happened to be a car park for another building that we managed to see there were 10 nests. So otherwise it's very hard to find them. Sorry. Whoops. So the rear of buildings, we often have people walking around the street looking, but we can't see in people's back gardens. Obviously there's no public access. So if they nest around the back, it's very hard to find them. But sometimes we get the local residents to look for themselves, and then we have reports that way. And another problem is the swifts are very erratic in when they appear and they don't appear. Sometimes you'll go out on a summer's evening, it's beautiful, clear blue skies, you think this is going to be a wonderful night for swifts, and you hardly see any. It's inexplicable. So it's difficult if you've got a time survey and you agree to go on a particular day, you might just not find hardly any swifts at all. And as I've mentioned earlier, you never know whether the breeding has been successful. There has been a recent report of people using infrared on nest boxes to see whether there are swifts inside. But nearly all our swifts are from buildings, and infrared cameras, there's no evidence that they can work inside buildings. So that's another challenge. So, what are our future plans? Are we okay? Sorry. Yeah. So, obviously, we're planning to try and, as our objective state, to increase these numbers of swifts, but not just swifts. We're going to try and help, particularly the house martins. And we want to increase the number of nests, particularly near existing colonies. That's the most optimistic, the best chance we have, where there are young coming out from one year to the next, and they're looking for somewhere to build the following year. But we're now, as I said, this year we've installed 5 house martin cups, singles and doubles, and we often put them where they used to be meeting nest where people remember there was a colony. And we use swift callers, out-knocking callers, near the new boxes. So if I click, no. Yes, when I'm on the screen, yes, if you click that black, you click it on your computer. So there are these nice little callers. They're very small now with a little speaker. Yes, that's it. You have to be a bit careful with swift callers. Obviously, getting the volume right to attract the swifts, but not annoy the neighbours or your spouse or anything else. So, but you just play them for an hour or two in the early morning, an hour or two late at night, and that helps to attract, particularly the juvenile swifts. They come later than the adults, and they're scouting around like teenagers, roaring around, making lots of noise. They're looking for nesting sites for future years. And if they hear that, they think, there's a colony, they come and investigate. So new boxes is a classic way of trying to get attention. I think that's really, thank you very much. We are, we're trying to improve the swift surveying technique. We're going to keep those 6 core areas to get better comparability between the years. But we're going to try some time-limited surveys. Peter Hughes, the SOS Surveys Officer, came to talk to us at our AGM last September and suggested a fixed time period for the surveying would improve the comparability between years. So we're thinking about doing choose the 3 of the key colonies and do a limited time survey, say 2 hours at each of these locations. We're not going to get total numbers, but we're not bothered about total numbers. We just want to see if there's temporal variability, whether the numbers are going up or going down. It's an issue nationally. I've talked to the Edward Mayor, and he's saying there's no good agreed way of surveying swifts across this country, or even he works abroad quite a bit. We were also thinking about there's a line transect design for swift surveying that was devised by a couple of RSPB people, Banbury and Beach in 2017. Apparently it's never been actually implemented, and we're thinking about trying to implement that to get better temporal comparability. We obviously keep recruiting and training new volunteers, always an issue, and encouraging more casual reporting via social media. That's where we find people in the area. We found a new colony in one of our suburbs called Morley, and we didn't know they were there. Local people reported it on social media. We went in and we found there were nests. As I said, we're widening the scope out to include get the surveyors to report sightings of house martins and swallows. So I think we're probably a bit late. I think there are very few house martins left in Lewes, though we think there were quite large numbers 20, 30 years ago. And we're going to increase this use of the planning process, more use of this leaflet with the South Downs National Park and the district councils, to make swift accommodation a requirement, even if it isn't passed by Parliament. Local authorities can insist on it. And one more thing we do is we share ideas with other swift groups around Sussex. We talk to each other, and it's all really under the umbrella of the SOS Swift Champion, David Boddington. So he's looking over the whole county, but we sometimes talk to each other and give advice and compare. So this is Dave Boddington and I have got together and tried to write down where we think there are some extent of activity of swift groups just beginning to form or having been established. Brighton here, Dave here from the other day, been talking to the Brighton Swift group, and they have operated in the last bird track. There's also an SOS Swift, RSPB Swift mapper on that working website. To get more serious about it, it's good to develop a local group. It's very difficult to do it on your own. It's hardly enough for a group of people to be there at the right time to find out where the nesting is. If there's a group of you, you can spread the word. And the Swift group can also help putting up Swift boxes, encouraging Swift bricks, and those are the website, Swift Conservation website, that give you the details of how to do that. And lobbying local councillors to require Swift accommodation in new developments and restorations. And we're very happy to pass on the LSS leaflet, and you can modify it for your town, rather than the map that's equivalent to your area. So finally, conclusions. I think we can see that the Swift numbers are in steep decline, not just Sussex, but the whole of the UK, and they need help. Local people can effectively help Swifts, and they really need a local organisation to help them do it, and SOS is a really good vehicle to organise that under. As you can see, in Lewes, we've established a rough baseline of, say, around 80 pairs, and we've confirmed this local decline, which roughly matches national decline. And we've identified some actions to help halt or reverse the decline, with the support of local organisations, councils, and SOS, notably. So we've advised on the installation of those portable nest boxes. And you can see there are several towns in Sussex that are developing their own Swift groups. And some of them have started doing some surveying, and obviously we want to encourage more. And there are other species out there that could be similarly helped, including house martins as well. So thank you very much for your attention.
Super stuff. Any questions for Mike? Loads of questions for Mike. Let's start left-hand side. Big questions each time. So that is about, are Swifts more likely to nest if there are several together? And what are the implications of that for putting up nest boxes?
Yes, they do. We like, I think probably about 90% of our Swifts are in these colonies, or close by the colony. So our policy has been that LSS will fund nest boxes that are right next to colonies, so we can extend the colony. If somebody wants to put a Swift box up in another part of the town where we haven't any evidence of nearby Swifts, we generally suggest that they pay for it themselves. So we try to focus efforts where we think there's the maximum chance of increasing, and then we get them to be the Swift callers and things like that. Does that answer? Yes.
I think next question. Carol.
What's the success rate of nesting in boxes and bricks?
Success rate of nesting in boxes
And bricks.
and bricks.
It's a very interesting question. There are some towns where Swift boxes have been a roaring success. I have a colleague at a village in Yorkshire, and about 90% of the Swifts are in boxes. But the Lewes Swifts are particularly perverse, free-minded. They came out from under eaves, and they want to stay under eaves. So we've been exhorting them, putting the Swift boxes nearby, but we have a handful of the boxes that are regularly used. And we hope that having the up and under boxes, they're going to get the hang of using them. Swift bricks, I don't know what the national situation is. In Lewes, we've only had so far about half a dozen Swift bricks, and not one of them yet have been adopted. One's in our local cinema, the depot, if any of you know it, and they put them up when they built it, which was very green of them. But then he said he really hated the Swift caller, so that they have a conflict of interest with having a Swift caller screaming out when people are listening to the cinema. So we're still working.
Yes, please. Yes.
I'm Rebecca from University Point, and I'm part of the reading group, and I noticed you mentioned us at the end. So
That's good.
I'd like to give you an encouraging update. So I spend a lot of time in Lewes, and I've always been quite inspired by the number of Swifts, having grown up in a house in Brighton with the Swift is still there, and it's there in the 60s, so they're still active to get to. But following on from what you're doing in Lewes, I've been following the person for a number of years. I've witnessed plummeting decline in University Point in the last 20 years in our Swifts. The church was reroofed, the Italian housing went in with new sockets and guttering on all the big council houses in the River. So anyway, witnessed all that. Strongly recommend people set up a group in your local area. We got a grant from SOS. David Rogers came out to help me with the houses. We put 10 boxes up last March, ready, and very late July, early August, when most of the Swifts had gone, we found one of our new boxes active with a very late nesting pair in fledged at the 30th of August in 2 weeks, which was mind-blowing. We didn't expect that in our first year. And that box, the most successful box, is a house where the owner played the volume device a lot. And he was completely committed to it. So we've now got 10 boxes, one of which is 30 years. There are still a couple of natural nest sites in the village, but not many. And then house martins also got thriving house martin population on University of London High School, which hopefully will give us morale to try and keep them servicing it. We've put some new boxes up on there as well, some artificial nest boxes. And last year we had, I think, 3 new house martin nests, and at least 5 still villages. So I've got quite a lot of data on what's going on over there, so I need to find where I'm going. So I've been monitoring to get my information out of it. Strongly recommend getting the mayor down, head to our village, or coming up to boxes up and looking at what we can have.
Okay.
It's really well doing, and the population gets to feel more than carrying boxes up as well.
That's excellent. I'm really encouraged to hear your progress. Sometimes we write a report from MSS, we send it to SOS and they put it up on the website, their website, under this Dave Warrington's bit of the website, and then other people from other groups can look at it and learn. So I think we need to sort of keep comparing notes. But that's very good news, and I think to answer the other previous point, it is a good idea to put up several Swift boxes as well, because it does help the take up.
We concentrated on one area, the area where new babies are nets, where carrying and sockets, so we concentrated on carrying and the other houses. And it's worked everywhere.
I hope people manage to pick up most of that success in Pesky Point and a call out that get in touch with SOS, Dave Boddington, Edward Mayer. Right, 2 very quick questions before we go to lunch, Chris. So, the question is, do you ever encounter hostility from homeowners?
Yes, we have some. The paint shop where we have the 6, 8 nests. The owner of the house is totally indifferent, doesn't want to know about it, doesn't even want to repair, which is actually quite good that he doesn't want to repair. And we get hostility from people who think that they're going to put glue on their windows and things. But a lot of it is when our surveyors go out, they carry a card and they get to chat to the local people and they get to reassure them that they're not a threat, and it's actually quite an honour to share your house. But we've got some people taking more convenience convincing the others. Yes, we don't tend to use binoculars.
I'm going to take the question right at the back. Sorry.
Anecdotally speaking, I understand that there are less swifts and house martins nesting in the south of England compared now with the Midlands and Northern England and Scotland, simply because the insect availability that they like to eat is much better distributed north of us now, owing to climate change. And I don't know what comparisons in terms of what, say, the nesting swifts are and house martins in Sussex are with, say, Yorkshire or Lancashire or Durham or something like that, and whether they've got the big increase compared with years gone by, whilst we've got the decrease here.
Hopefully people heard that, whether there is the decline in the south and the insect population problem, whether we're seeing an increase in the north to correspond with that.
Okay, I haven't come across that support for that hypothesis. I think if you look at the national figures for the whole of the UK, there was a 60% decline. Sussex is 70% decline over the same period.
Yeah.
Whether it's really different, all those models have uncertainty. So I think the north is having the decline problems, and Europe as well. So I think it's an international problem. I'm sure there are local variations in the food supply, but I don't think that is the north-south is the key issue there. I think it's much more complex than that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry not to bring in the other questions. I'm going to break us for... You really... Okay.
The Sussex Horticultural Society does have a rundown champion. If you look at our website, the Swift banner now says Swift and rundown. Paul Stevens, he lives near Arundel, and he's very happy to help people as well. His advice is also giving
So that's SOS's own champion, Paul Stevens, yeah, on the website. Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Swift currently a few hundred metres just behind us there, so if anybody wants to set up a group and take a seat,
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Mike, can I say that was a brilliant talk, and obviously engendered loads of interest. The fact that it pulled in Dave Boddington and Pete Hughes and Audrey, and so many of you, I'm sure, are involved with Swifts, and I think it's only through that kind of people power that we're going to pull them back. So thank you to Mike for that story. I will just say that Hannah Vaughan-Taylor, she went naked, didn't she, in London to promote the cause.
I didn't show that photo of her.
It's given me some ideas for our president, anyway. The image. Lunchtime. It's your chance to see all of the stalls. Make sure that you fully utilise the raffle. It's stuffed with alcohol this year. Make sure you go and see Reese over on the RSPB stand. Give us a wave, Reese. Because Reese has got a little competition for you to take part in with a prize of all things. Make sure you go and see Ken and Linda right at the back with their Sussex surveys. Make full use of the second-hand books as well, and we'll see you back for the second half. Enjoy lunchtime.